Hello, everyone. How are you today? I have just a fascinating man here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him when I do the formal introduction. But Dave Stevens is Director of Global Events at Elation, and we had an interesting conversation we thought we'd kick off with because this event is about wellness, but wellness is about balance. So Dave, share what you just heard on Good Morning America.
Yeah, it's very timely, but one of the former executives of Goop, which is Gwyneth Paltrow's organization that has been in the media many times, she is coming out about, quote, and the headline is fantastic, I don't know who wrote it, but toxic wellness culture, which is somewhat comical to me because you would think wellness is this thing, but the apparently it can get very militant in the way that people are about exclusion and hardcore dieting and all these crazy things that then leads people to depriving themselves and sending them into a wellness circle that then they are no longer well because they're trying too hard to be well.
Exactly. And I think when you wrap that into the idea of wellness at events, as some of you on the call probably know, Prevue does an event. It's really the event about integrating wellness into your meetings. And we came up with a term called sneaky wellness, because what we find is that when people try to sell wellness to the person who's running the meeting and integrating wellness, they get all turned off. Like they go to that extreme, and it doesn't necessarily have to be an extreme. It can be a slight change in menu. It can be a slight change in agenda, leaving some free time for attendees or something in the morning for exercise. So I think the message here is that it's moderation is what it's all about. But David's going to talk a lot about that. So why don't I kick off the webinar? I'm Barbara Scafidio. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Prevue's editor, and I will be your moderator. Dave has an incredible background, over a decade of marketing and events management experience, including doing events for AT&T, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, MTV, the list goes on. It's pretty impressive. He's also, as you can tell, passionate about wellness, which you will see today. Before we kick off formally, I want to thank our sponsors, Lake Nona Wave Hotel, which will be the site of Meet Well in August. And we're very excited about coming to this fabulous new facility. We also have other sponsors I want to thank: Naples, Marco Island, Everglades, CVB, the Palm Beaches, and Edgewood Tahoe Resort. A couple more quick things. We are recording this session, so you will receive a link if you do have to turn your attention elsewhere. Don't worry. You will receive credits from the CEU credits from the EIC, and we will also receive in a post-event webinar white paper co-authored by Dave. It will be in an email right after the event. So very extensive work he did around the topics we're going to talk about today. So on that note, other than to say, please send me questions throughout. This is very conversational. We'll certainly do some questions at the end, but happy to break up the conversation and ask Dave a question if you send it while he's doing his presentation. So now I welcome Dave Stevens.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Very excited. I think I might be able to see Edgewood Tahoe from where I am. I'm in Tahoe at the moment. Yeah, I'm also celebrating this year. I am the self-proclaimed 4-time fittest man in meetings and events. I participate in CrossFit very actively, and every year they have their little thing called the CrossFit Open, which is a global online contest, if you will, to get to go to their big fancy Olympic-esque level competition. And a few years ago, they started offering people the opportunity to put your occupation in as part of your form. And what was really exciting this year is the past few years, I've jokingly said I was the uncontested because nobody else had event prof or anything of the nature in their profile, so I was the only one on the leaderboard. But this year, there was like 10 people on it, which was super exciting to see it grow. So that's big, that's new, that's exciting. Also, I want to send a big thank you to my co-authors on this white paper, Tanya Andrade, Ariadne Pereira, both with Olympic meetings. They helped with a lot of this, as well as Rochelle Soper, MD. We had an actual doctor contribute. Full disclosure, yes, she is my wife, but obviously we share something in common. But she really was able to give us a lot of the science-based information behind the benefits of nutrition and movement and whatnot. So you'll see in the white paper, there are a lot of studies that are referenced. So we didn't want to just be a hearsay, here's what we think. We wanted to hashtag trust the science. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm going to start sharing, and you should be able to see it. If you hear something that you really like or have a question about, you're welcome to @mention me on Twitter while we jump into it. So I only have like 9 slides. It's not real extensive, but we're going to jump into it. We're going to talk about what is wellness. We're also going to talk about what is wellness, what isn't wellness, toxic wellness culture, mindfulness, movement, food, and then kind of an overall conclusion. You can also use the hashtag #BeWell if you decide to live tweet things. So jumping in here, this is how the Global Wellness Institute defines wellness: as the active pursuit of activities, choices, and lifestyles that lead to a state of holistic health. I think this goes back to what we talked about opening the call with balance. If you are too regimented, if you are too, there's a reason like even bodybuilders have cheat days, right? They eat so strict and then they have their cheat day, because you have to have balance in your life. And if you are constantly depriving yourself, you're going to crack, and that's not good for anyone. You might never come back. So it's about balance and a lifestyle that leads to a holistic health. Specifically today, we are going to talk about mindfulness, movement, and food as the 3 ways to include wellness practices in your meetings. And this is to talk to your sneaky wellness, Barb, how you can do some of those things. So we're going to start with mindfulness. And the reason we're going to start with mindfulness is if you take a second, and actually we're going to take a second right now, and we're going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to count it out. You're going to inhale for 4 seconds, you're going to hold for 4 seconds, and you're going to exhale for 4 seconds. So on the count of 3, we're going to do this. 1, 2, 3, and inhale, and hold, and exhale. Okay, now this is taught by a lot of different places. This is also included in military training as box breathing. They use this breathing technique to calm people's minds when they're in very hectic situations, because if you're anxious, if you're stressed out, if you're worried about things, are you able to learn, or are you going to make rash decisions? This is where mindfulness can come in. If you give people the opportunity to have a calm mind coming into your meeting, they're going to be much more receptive to whatever information they're receiving. So the idea behind mindfulness is, 1, to help your attendees just feel better, because they've taken the time, they're calm, their minds are clear, they're able to be receptive to new information. But it also will make your presenters feel more heard. When they're listening actively, they're able to ask better questions, because they're actually processing that information because they're present. Their minds aren't preoccupied with worrying about other things. So that's where this can really be helpful. So you have to think about, if the environment you're creating, does that promote mindfulness? Are you incorporating green spaces? Are you taking advantage of lighting to create that opportunity for them to have a calm and present mind? So with that, we're going to talk about some incorporation ideas. You're going to find out really quickly that this was written by planners. So we get to it because we all know we're very, very busy people. So there's a couple of things that you can do to bring this in. So one, you can offer meditation alongside other morning activities if you do that. They can do self-guided. You can bring in an instructor. I have some hacks on how you can do this on a very cost-effective level. Creating an agenda that gives people's brains room to breathe. If it is one session after another, go, and there's no breaks in between, they're not going to have that opportunity to actually process what they just learned and set up for the next conversation. In one of the papers that we referenced that you'll find, there was a doctor that talked about using the threshold of a patient's room to reset, to walk up to that door and pause before opening the door to go in and see that patient, because it gave them an opportunity to be present with that patient. The next thing, adding that greenery to your meeting space, or sourcing a venue with natural light. Natural light does amazing things for people. During the day, you've heard about blue light. Well, think about what color the sky is during the day. It's blue, right? And during the day, you tend to be more awake. And then in the evenings, it turns to yellows and whatnot. So there's a reason that we react to light a certain way. And then the other thing is extend your break times. One of the things people talk about Zoom fatigue, because they're just in meeting after meeting after meeting. They're just getting fatigued. Those successful conferences, those successful online conferences, they have breaks built in so that people have time. Keep those breaks as we return back to in-person events. This is a great opportunity to give your attendees an opportunity to connect with each other. Yes.
Could I add something that we learned at the last Meetwell?
Please.
We did roundtable discussions with everybody on the second day, and a thing that kept coming out is we've got to realize that people have not been at these events and at the pace. Some industries are just getting back into meetings as much as us as meeting professionals are used to. You know, we're way back in by now. For some people, it's still their first event, and certainly attendees are they are just not. They're exhausted basically by the old agenda.
Yeah.
So quite a bit. And then one other thing I wanted to just add about, and if you don't mind me just taking the floor.
Not at all.
I've learned so much from planning Meetwell, is that some of the things that I thought we were doing that might be too far out, and that you would think an exec's eyes would glaze over when you explain that you wanted to do it, were some of the most successful things we've ever done. We created a room for meditation. We were at MGM Grand, and they created a lounge for meditation with orchids and candles, and it was soft lighting, beautiful green, jade green lighting. It was such a hit. People would just go in there and decompress. Another event that we called it a Zen Lounge. This was at the JW Marriott Marco Island, and it was a room where people could relax on a yoga mat and with a pillow, and there was a beautiful scene. It was a video wall scene of an island, and the music, they put on headsets. 10 minutes in that room changed the entire day for those people. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the rules have changed a bit from even pre-pandemic, and a lot of things that might not have been acceptable seem to be the hit of the event now, or that's been my experience.
I totally agree. I think back to, and this is a good exercise for everyone. Think back to the first event you went to after. I don't want to say it's over, but you know, your first big event. It might have been a Connect. It might have been a Prevue. It might have been something. Think about how you felt at the end of that first day, because I very vividly remember I got back to my room and went, "Oh, I am not cut out for this anymore. What happened to me? I used to be able to go out and network and chat with people and blah, blah, blah." I got to my room. I was like, I just turned the world off. I want everyone to go away. But mostly because that meeting had been designed to pre-pandemic standards. And that agenda was thought through prior to us forgetting how much energy it takes to interact with people. It's it takes energy to interact with people. So by thinking through those things and thinking about yourself and thinking about your attendees, think about your experience and push that out to anticipating how attendees are going to feel about this. One of the things we just did with our last company kickoff, we didn't start our days until 10 a.m. officially. Our breakfasts were 90 minutes. Our lunch was an hour and 15 minutes. And then we were done by 10 o'clock every night. We gave people essentially, if they wanted it, up to 12 hours from the end of any given event. I mean, they could always leave the party early if they want to, but we give them 12 hours so that they could decompress. So
Very thoughtful.
there's some ideas.
Yeah, one of the actually is being, she's doing what you just said. She's anticipating, incorporating these practices. So Kathleen said, if we extend their break times, how do you direct them to use this time for mindfulness and not answering emails?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky one. I mean, you could shut off the Wi-Fi if you want, but I think one of the opportunities here is you can express intention. You can express that in either your FAQ or your pre-event or in your keynote or in housekeeping or things of that nature. Fortunately for us, by doing a 10 a.m. start, and we were on the West Coast, it gave a lot of people the opportunity to do their emails in the morning. And when they showed up, they were ready because they had done their pre-work. We got the best scores we've ever received of, did this event take you away? It was an internal event, but did this event take you away from your day job? They were the lowest they've ever been in the sense of no, they didn't feel pulled away because they had that time in the morning. So when they went to their breaks, they didn't feel that pressure of having to be in the meeting room at 8 a.m. and then not having any time to get caught up on things.
Good tip.
Okay, so we talked about mindfulness. The next thing we're going to talk about is movement. Now, before we get into this, I learned a little thing halfway through this that a vendor of ours that we use for event registration, I won't name any names, but they do this before they were doing this before every single meeting to help people reset before they came into the meeting. So this is going to be honor system. I'd like everybody to stand up. And if you're in public, this is going to be amazing because people are going to stare at you. And it's kind of like the hokey pokey. So what you're going to do is we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what you're going to do is you're just going to shake it out. So you'll like do your right arm for 5 seconds, do your left arm for 5 seconds, do your right leg for 5 seconds, do your left leg for 5 seconds. And then we're going to go 4. And then we're going to go 3. And then we're going to go 2. And then we're going to go 1. But it's going to kind of speed up. So everybody stand up. And right arm, start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Left arm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right leg, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Left leg, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right arm, 4, 3, 2, 1. Left arm, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right leg, 4, 3, 2, 1. Left leg, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right arm, 3, 2, 1. Left arm, 3, 2, 1. Right leg, 3, 2, 1. Left leg, 3, 2, 1. Right arm, 2, 1. Left arm, 2, 1. Right leg, 2, 1. Left leg, 2, 1. Right arm, 1. Left leg, 1. Right leg, 1. Left leg, 1. Okay. On to our next thing about movement. So this is a very interesting quote. A single bout of aerobic exercise can significantly facilitate learning mechanisms and that can persist for up to 30 minutes. Now it can go on potentially past that, but if you just take a moment and reflect, there's that euphoria you always get after a good workout. You always feel better. I've very rarely heard, "Oh, I should have never worked out." This is that there's a huge perceived benefit to this that we all know, and that's that great feeling post-workout. However, there's science behind that, and the exercise has been shown to increase your hippocampal size. Now, I told you we got a doctor on board to really legitimize this thing. And that's the portion of the brain that's heavily involved in learning and memory. Most of you probably remember the presidential fitness test in school. JFK is the one who initiated this, and it's because they found students that exercised learned more. They retained more information. They had better test scores. This is all out there on the internet, very easy to find, but that's why they did it. We all thought it was stupid when we were in school, of course. Oh, I don't want to do this. But it was actually for our own good so that we would get more out of school. The other thing is, so what this boils down to is that offering the opportunity for people to move, they will learn more. Now we're going to jump into how you can do some sneaky wellness, I think is the right term, Barb. Yeah. Some corporate incorporation ideas. So you can offer a variety of workout classes, yoga, running, boot camp. I think the thing that always drives me crazy is I want the opportunity to work out the way I like to work out. And a lot of times there's like yoga and running and that's it, or I'm on my own. Boot camp is a very easy solve. It's all body weight. What's fantastic is some of these things you can take the guy who looks like he can do anything, make him do a bunch of body weight stuff, and he completely crumbles. And he laughs at himself because he's like, oh my God, this is so hard. I can't hold a squat. Or some other, or like you watch him do burpees and he's dying. There's great YouTube videos of these like bodybuilders and fitness people doing workouts together, and they completely offset each other. So boot camp is a great leveling ground. But as we talked about earlier, this is about variety and giving people those options so they have something to choose from. I think one of the things that we also just did is we knew we had people from Europe coming in. Our company kickoff was in Vegas, where the gyms in Vegas don't open until 7 or 8 o'clock. And if you're from the East Coast, that's 9 a.m. or that's 10 a.m. or like that's late in the morning. And it's crazy to me because not everyone goes to Vegas with that intention. So we wrote into our contract that we had the gym open at 6 a.m. so that if people wanted to do something on their own, they had that opportunity and they weren't stuck looking for something to do or feeling like they're doing a prison workout in their hotel room, like I have experienced personally during industry events. You can find my tweets from IMEX. During finding creating flexible seating options. So the other thing we did is we had low-level seating at the front. We had classroom style seating in the middle. We had standing tables at the back so people could stand. You've seen the treadmills. I think the challenge with some of the like equipment-based thing where you're like walking in the room and that kind of thing is how much noise those things put off. But the idea is if you're leveraging breaks and flexible seating options, people are going to choose where they want to sit based on how they're feeling at the moment. And this gives people that inclusivity and that feeling of, wow, they've really thought about me and my experience here at this event. Another thing I just experienced is they did an afternoon team building, and the CBB where we were created a walking scavenger hunt in the downtown area so that we were able to get out, be in the sunshine, see the city, see the sights, get some fun pictures, get to know each other, all while in a active situation. So we got to move. And then you probably have all, if you've been to an IMEX or a WEC or any of the big ones, and some of the smaller ones, they have step challenges or other tech that help people moving over the duration of the event with leaderboards and things of that nature. And that's a whole thing to obviously draw on your competitive people that like that angle. I'm going to pause for a second there, Barb, and see if you have anything you would like to add, because you have some great ideas and seen some amazing things.
Yeah, well, I do think you brought something up that's really important, is that you have different levels of fitness across your group, and you have different ages across your group. So it can be very off-putting for people who just have more of a kind of mild interest in fitness, for it to be a heavy focus. So we I've just found that, you know, the variety is the key. Just like any incentive activity or, you know, meeting activity. It's just really understanding your demographic and not upsetting anybody by trying to do something that's good for everyone. You end up upsetting people. So
Yeah.
I do have a question that I think that the ones that and this has been brought up repeatedly at me, well, the ones that are hardest to sell on the wellness are the meeting holders, which is also, you know, often going to be like your C-level, or, you know, if you're an independent, it's going to be your client. So Julius asked that question. Hi, Julius. He's on the call. How do you sell wellness to the boss or the client? Is it not perceived as just a cost?
Yeah, and I think we dig into that much more detailed in the white paper, but I'll position this. Have you heard of BDNF before? I'm guessing you probably haven't. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So in this white paper, we really dug into the science of the fact that by increasing that BDNF level, which happens through increased cardiovascular movement, you increase the ability to learn. So if you can have a candid conversations with your stakeholders, which hopefully you can, and talk about the fact that, look, there is science behind this. We are giving our people the opportunity to have a greater chance of learning. If you think about, and we're going to wrap this up with a nice little bow at the end on specifically on that, but if you tell your executive, how much would you pay for people to hang on every word you're going to say? Well, you can, you know, play their ego a little bit, they're executives. That's where they're going to get interested, because they know how much effort they're putting into their presentation. That's what this does. By incorporating these things, they're going to get more out of that meeting. That's why we said increasing ROI by increasing wellness, because people who incorporate these three things see a higher return on investment. And we're gonna close that out towards the end here. But thank you for the question, Julius. Thanks for making the time. I appreciate it. It's good to see you here. With that, shall we move on to food?
Sounds good.
Okay. Everybody eats. I think this one, I mean, food is a pretty straightforward thing in the sense of like, would you drink dirty water? Would you put terrible gas in a Ferrari? You can, like, the analogies go on and on and on as to why you should eat good food. But if you're going to take these other initiatives, why wouldn't you follow that up? The other thing is there's actually some very tactical things to this as well. You should take the time to think about how your food and beverage selections align with your agenda. And that's going to make sense in a minute here. The other thing is non-alcoholic beverages. I sent an email right before our company kickoff. So we're fortunate that I have a constant reminder on my events team where about half of the team doesn't drink. So there is this constant like, okay, great menu. What are the non-alcoholic beverage options for people? And it doesn't just mean like juice and soda, because then you're just pumping people full of sugar, and that's not good either. So what you want to do is really think through and push a little bit on your vendors. I sent an email 2 weeks prior to the event, and I said, just a reminder, you know, we've asked for non-alcoholic options. We mostly stuck to non-alcoholic beer and the likes of that. We had some cocktails at our awards dinner, and that was a very in-depth conversation about, okay, I don't want just this to be a mocktail filled with sugar and juice and whatnot. Like, what can we do that's a creative, low calorie, while still feeling like they're enjoying a cocktail if they want. But I've been to various industry events where I decide to have a non-alcoholic beer so I don't have to hear people saying, oh, why aren't you drinking? Because that's a whole nother thing that I just saw on Twitter this week. And they had like 2. That's it. not 2 different kinds, two non-alcoholic beers at all the bars. Sorry, like total in the whole party, there's 200 people there, 2 non-alcoholic beers. Take the time, think about your attendees' experience. There's another thing that we're going to get into here that's science-based. There are 9 different brain foods that you can add to your F&B to help your attendees learn and retain more. They're all listed out. I'll give you a couple of them here in the white paper, but we picked this picture intentionally because some of them here are shown. So fish, like salmon, sardines, canned tuna, they have high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin B12, and selenium, which is shown to help in development of brain and nerve cells. This one's a good one, dark chocolate. Dark chocolate has flavonoids, but also reduces mental fatigue and boosts memory. So there's an opportunity there. People still feel like they're getting their little something. And then one of the things I called out whole eggs, because I couldn't find any nutritional values on powdered eggs, the dreaded powdered eggs. But whole eggs have vitamin B12, choline, and selenium as well that help with memory and cognition. So there's a few foods that are pretty easy to incorporate. This is the absolute in sneaky wellness. You can provide people with food that helps them learn, and they don't even know that you're helping them. The best part is this also adds a lot of color to your food and beverage line. I had our head of EMEA marketing come to me after, I think it was the second day, and was like, thank you for fighting the beige. Now she's in London. And I said, what, fighting the beige? And I was like, I don't even know what that means. She's like, the food. There's like salads, and there's vegetables, and there's fruit, and there's colors. And I was like, oh, I didn't know, but apparently that's the thing. So this also is visually very appealing to people as well. So jumping in, So for the food stuff, this is all pretty straightforward. You can tweak your menu. All these 9 foods are all listed. There's berries, there's nuts, there's avocados, there's beets, there's red, green, and orange veggie. Like they're all there, and each of their benefits are there. I think we all appreciate and understand. Now, before I jump into that, it doesn't mean you have to cut everything out, but you ask people about their dietary preferences already, right? So this is a great opportunity to once again make people feel heard, catered to, and included in your event. Barb, it sounded like you had something there.
A couple more great experiences we had with Healthy Breakfast, which is actually neither was from me. Well, these were just, I always rely on chefs, and I've never been disappointed with, when I have that conversation about healthy, especially breakfast. One was at the Langham in Pasadena. They did a avocado toast breakfast. So they did the avocado, and they had the poached eggs ready to go. Avocado tablecloths. It was poolside. One of the best breakfasts I've ever done. And another is everybody's into smoothies. So, make your own smoothies. Make it about them deciding what they want in their smoothie. And I think that's so easy to do. There's no reason almost not to, and there's not a cost any more than if you just were putting out smoothies.
I would put an asterisk on the smoothies.
Yeah.
Because I went to a hotel event, and I had worked out in the morning, and I saw a smoothie bar, and I was all excited. I'm like, oh, awesome, there's a smoothie bar. And I'm like, great, what are in the smoothies? Fruit, 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 and fruit. So there's no protein of any kind. It is 100% sugar.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I have some yogurt. Is it sweetened yogurt? Yes. Okay, never mind on the smoothie. We all know about Jamba Juice. They went through their popularity craze, and everyone thought they were getting healthy, and instead were setting themselves up for all kinds of, you were, quite honestly, you were worse drinking a Jamba Juice than a Coke because of the levels of sugar that were in that. There's an old adage of, eat your fruit, drink your vegetables. I think that's it. Yeah, because of the fiber, you need a higher fiber count with that much sugar. So smoothies are great, but make sure they're well-rounded smoothies. Have that protein powder that people can add to it. Use Greek yogurt that has higher protein levels in it. While smoothies are great, they can be what I call sometimes wellness washing, because they seem healthy when you're actually undermining it with the amount of calories and the amount of sugar that you're giving people.
Good advice. Good advice. I want to just answer one. I've got a couple of people here who are asking about the complete list of brain foods. You will be receiving an email right after this webinar, and it will include the white paper that Dave keeps referring to, and all of the list of foods is in there as well. A lot of what he's talking about right now.
And it's not just the foods, it also includes the benefits of each of those foods. So it's broken down by each food and why they're beneficial. So that kind of takes us to this conclusion, right? And it's about bringing things together. And that food is kind of like the last thing, in the sense of, like, you've done all these other things. Like I just was at a hotel that had one of the best gyms I've ever experienced. And then I had to go 4.5 blocks to Chipotle to find a post-workout meal, because all they had in their cooler was sodas. And I was like, what? You guys have this amazing gym upstairs, and then nothing for my like, total missed opportunity. So if I could sum it up, that's where the real opportunity is. And that's fine. You can charge $9 for your protein shakes, because that's what some hotels do. But at least have it for me. To kind of circle this all back, wellness is about inclusion, not exclusions. Think yes and. My big thing is finding out what people's expectations are appropriately during registration. There are some people that are going to come to your event to kind of, they have, I don't know, 15 kids at home, and they're like, this is, no, I'm going to go spend some me time. I'm going to have some drinks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Cool. But what about the people that aren't doing that? What about the people that have, I don't know, maintained or made incredible fitness progress at home, and they don't want to give that up just because they're on the road? Those people a lot of time get overlooked, and I only bring that up because I'm one of them. I don't necessarily want to drink. I'd like to have a protein in my smoothie. I would like some things catered to me, but 9 times out of 10 they're not. The breakfast gets laid out, and it's muffins, croissants, fruit, carb, like it's the nickname we call it is carbicide, because it's just 100% carbs, and there's nothing protein based in the morning. So think yes and, because you want to be able to cater to both of those things. And this is because as we're coming back to live events, people are expecting to bring more of their at-home preferences with them. They've gotten to live a life that they have figured out works best for them. And now as we're asking them to leave their family, to leave their friends, to get on a plane, to spend money, we should be catering to that. This is our opportunity to build back better, if you will. I probably shouldn't have said that. That's a term that is used in politics, but to do this different. The rules have changed, and so should our events. Now, I alluded to this, but here's something I saw, and this was a firsthand lesson. There was a mistake on our part. We did a meeting fairly early on. I'd call it 6-8 months ago. And we didn't take the time to really pay attention to food and beverage. We had people leave. They would leave during lunch. That time that we were all supposed to be together and like talk and team build and get to know each other and whatnot. They went offsite to go get food because what they wanted wasn't there. They came back. Sometimes they were late to the program because they had to go somewhere else to go get food, and they had to go hunt and gather and find their food. This matters to people. This has an impact to people. When they go to the food and beverage line and they don't see what they're looking for or what they want, it has an impact. And the truth of the matter is, it has an impact on their ROI on that event. We're asking these people to leave their home life to come be with us. And then we survey them and we find out how they felt. This is an opportunity for us to really help people feel that all the money, all the time, all the distance to come to our event was well worth it. And because we did this and we paid so much more attention to it at our kickoff, we got over 50% of our company attendees to take our post-event survey, which I'm very happy about. And we got a 9.2 out of 10 as an average score for our company event. That's the highest it's ever been, because people felt that like their needs were being listened to, that they were accepted, that they got time with people, that they were able to make the most of that time away from their friends and family and loved ones. So there is real world proof that by including these things, you can drive higher feedback scores, and that all the information, your presenters are spending countless hours on building these slides, building these decks. They have 20 minutes that they want to present on how to change the world, but someone's didn't get enough sleep, or they left to go get their own meal, or they created something that took them out of the event, missed that 20 minutes, then you're undermining your program. So that's where this real ROI comes in, is by creating these inclusions, you create people that can be more attentive and get more value out of your program. And that's it.
Well done. Well
That's
done. Folks, send some questions my way. We've got a few more minutes before we have to wrap up. And we have Dave here to tap his brain, and obviously he's put a lot of thought into all of this. So I do have a question about coffee, and Janice is asking if it's good. I can't imagine not. Anytime I haven't had coffee, I've had people searching and coming up to me and saying, "Where's the coffee?" So I don't know, but what's your thought on this? And are there alternatives?
If you get rid of coffee, you're looking to have a mutiny.
A riot.
Coffee and caffeine is a topic in itself, right? But I think once again, this is about choices. And look, I love black coffee before I go work out. That's my choice of pre-workout. And especially, and if you have an international European-based crowd, you better have coffee, otherwise forget it. But if you have, but you also should have tea. But coffee and tea, I think, is great. One of the challenges, like that we discovered in Vegas, is coffee is tough to get in the morning. A lot of the hotels don't have coffee makers in their room. I discovered a hack. I'll share this with everyone in case you are a coffee drinker and you ever stay at MGM Grand. Usually there's only one place to get coffee first thing in the morning, and that's the Starbucks right next to the lobby, and the line is always ridiculous. It's not the greatest, but Johnny Rockets in the food court, which is on the way to the gym, is open 24 hours a day and has like diner level coffee, but it did the trick, and it was always there, and it was way cheaper than Starbucks. But we had coffee at every break because people love it, and we had coffee and tea at every break, as well as water, so that people could make their own choices.
Yeah, yeah, and fruit. Well, obviously, fruit infused water is healthier for people, or they absorb it more correctly. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Or at least
that's the first time I've heard that.
That's what I've heard.
I'm
right,
I'm going to pass that along to the MD and get a follow-up question, get a follow-up answer on that.
Let's do that. I have a question or an idea from Tanya, who says she offers food and drink throughout the day versus at a specific time as another way to be mindful. So that questions the whole break concept, that we've always done breaks a certain way, but do we need to?
Yeah, I think if it makes sense with the program, then it works. You're obviously going to have to work with your venue quite significantly because they have times that they're going to leave food out. I think there are food laws as well about how long things can sit and that kind of thing. I think if you're offering snacks throughout the day, I think that's great. People might take smaller portions during lunch and be able to sustain themselves. I will say I've gotten a couple exceptions a few times. We did a kickoff a while ago where I looked at the break options and they were all just terrible. Like there was no balance in them. It was all like sugar and fats and carbs. And I was like, where's, like, you don't have any beef jerky or any jerky of any kind or protein bars, or like there was nothing when it came to protein. And I said, I want an exception. And they gave me one. And I went to, I don't remember where I went, but I basically just went and bought boxes of protein bars and stuff and brought them in and set them out at the breaks. And then people could come and just grab them and they could snack throughout the day. So I think if you can work with your venue, especially because a lot of the venues just don't offer the best snacks for breaks, go for it. Let alone you'll pay way less than what they want to charge.
Yeah, I had the privilege for probably 4 years of working with the Stay Well Meetings product, which is at a lot of the MGM resorts, and it's been expanded out into other hotels. But they do a menu based on Cleveland Clinic, and it is tasty. It's nutritional. I have to say, I had combined with the other Stay Well options, and I encourage people to Google it if you don't know what it is. It has to do with air filtration and a lot of elements, lighting in the room, circadian rhythm lighting, and so forth. People left that meeting saying it felt different than any other meeting they'd ever been to, and it was about the food and it was about the environment and the pure air and the healthy food. So
I think
a lot to it.
The beauty of these things that we're talking about is you can take a lot of what, and I've been through the Delos event and meeting wellness certification, and I passed it, so I'm Delos certified. So it's the for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it is basically the training program that is post meet well on environment. It's really kind of focused on environment. It's not necessarily how to help people be healthier or increase their wellness. It's really about, yes, lighting, air, water, etc. These things that we talked about today can help get you that type of experience anywhere. And that's why this is so important to me, is because, yes, that's great that product exists in Vegas, but if you're not in Vegas, then what? What do? Well, you can take some simple steps that give people the opportunity to have an experience where they're accepted. I think that's what a lot of this is coming down to. I think a lot of people used to go to events and they're like, look, I know I'm going to this event. I know it's going to be blank. And they just knew that was the trade-off for going to the event. And now people go to the event and they don't care. They're like, well, if you're not going to do what I want, I'm using that very largely, but if I'm not going to get what I want when I'm there, then why am I going to go? There's increased and decreased tolerance in certain categories with people. We had a issue where like one of our laptops, like the presentation laptop crashed like mid-presentation, and we're like, all right, everybody, you get 5 minutes. And everyone just kind of laughed it off. Did it show up in the survey? Not even once. But if the food would have been off, I know we would have heard about it, because I saw those people at that previous meeting that just got up and left and went and got their own food. So there are certain categories where people are very forgiving, and there's other categories where they are not. And when it comes to their personal preferences, they are unforgiving coming back to meetings.
Right. Can you share with everyone how you, who puts on the certification, and ALHI is involved, are they not?
The Delos one. So the Delos certification is in partnership with ALHI, and if we pause for a second and say the name Mike Dominguez, that's where everything comes together. So Mike Dominguez helped or worked with Delos to create the Meet Well and the Stay Well product at MGM when he was there, and now that he is at ALHI, he wants to see that Stay Well concept permeate other properties. So he worked with them to create a program for planners, and so that we could create these environments wherever we go, instead of just having to go to certain properties, which is obviously to his advantage. But it also raises the level for us as an industry of being able to be better prepared and thinking through our event attendees experience.
Absolutely.
So
We
DELOS.
weren't right 25 years ago, right?
Right.
So, okay, we're almost out of time. I'm going to leave you with a tip from Marianne, who's been sharing tips throughout the event of healthy or in this case, non-alcoholic things. She said there's a new zero alcohol drink. It's called Zero, and it's really good. So I don't know if you've tried it, but Marianne thinks it's great. And
I will say, look, the craft brewing industry has figured out that non-alcoholic beverages are a thing, because I was in Safeway or a Rayleigh's, or I was in the grocery store, and I would say almost, it was easily 20% of the cold beer section was non-alcoholic. It's really growing, and as is the spirits as well. And some of them are great, some of them are not great. But yes, it's definitely a thing, and people have also figured out that that sugar content is something to be aware of.
yeah, I think it's important for us to as planners to read up so that we can share with our partners in the hotels
Yeah,
as well.
agreed.
So on that note, I am going to call this a wrap with a bow. And everyone will be receiving an email with Dave's white paper shortly. So
Awesome.
we want for being here today. Thank everyone for attending. I hope you got a lot out of it. I certainly did. And a big thank you to our sponsors.
And I hope to see you in August.
We will see, and Meet Well is happening in August, and you can find out more on the Prevue website, and Dave will be speaking there on this topic in more depth. So see you all again soon, I hope. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.